All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of DraftKings is the Sweat. I am Emerson Lotzia. We got an absolute electric hour of DFS and sports betting advice coming your way. We will do it on the Diamond, where we have 4 divisional games going down this afternoon. We'll do it on the links for the PGA Tour. It's like, hey, we like the Sin City. We're going to stick around here for another week. And how about some Monday Night Football Colts Ravens showdown picks? That sounds good. I'll have that. Let's get this party started, though, with our NFL panel. DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich, RotoWire's AJ Scholes. You guys know the drill. Monday morning, our hangover segment, overreacting to some of the biggest storylines from yesterday. So let's go ahead and start with last night's AFC Championship rematch between the Bills and the Chiefs. Josh Allen torching the league's worst-ranked defense for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. Buffalo 4-1 now, and being called the NFL's best team. But on the DK Sportsbook here, guys, the Bucs remain the favorite to win the whole thing, the Super Bowl. Should that be Buffalo with the best odds, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's a very good case that the Buffalo Bills should be the favorite here right now. I mean, you look at what this team has done, obviously outside of the week 1 blunder, now they've got an elite win under their bag. And I know that they face some weak quarterbacks too, but rush yards per attempt against the Buffalo Bills, they're top 5. Yards per pass attempt, they've allowed the fewest in the league. This is a team that's playing well, and I haven't even mentioned Josh Allen and how efficient he is on the ground. It's a team that's just tough in all facets, and you saw going up against a team that is having trouble on the defensive side of the ball how much better they can be. So I think everything considered, you look at these odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook. The Rams have kind of, lost a really bad game to another elite team. The Bucs really could easily have a couple more losses on their schedule here. I don't think we've seen that good enough from the Bucs that they should be the favorites. I would personally make the Bills the favorite here. I think they should be. I think they should at least switch places with the Bucs in the odds.
Pierce, do you agree with that? Should it be Buffalo atop there with the best odds on the DK Sportsbook?
I do agree. And for those following along at home, it was Tampa, then it was LA was the best. Then it was Arizona. I guess now it's going to be Buffalo for a week, I suppose. But this is, what more can you say? I mean, yesterday there was the one complaint that, well, Buffalo hasn't really played anybody. Well, we can put that to bed. The Buffalo defense has done everything they need to do. And even if you look at that week 1 matchup that Jeff mentions against Pittsburgh, that defense played well. They gave up some points on a long pass interference. They had a blocked punt. But other than that, the Buffalo defense played well. And basically every time when you shut down a Kansas City team, you're legit. And I still am shocked that they were getting points yesterday. I don't know why there wasn't more reverse movement. Yeah. I don't know why people don't believe in Buffalo. What more do we need to see? Case closed.
Yeah, Allen was deadly with those deep throws. You have the number 1 ranked defense like backing you up here, AJ. Do you believe, should they have the best odds to win the Super Bowl?
Absolutely not, guys. I don't know what we're talking about here. Like, did the Bucs lose? Did I misread the score there? Did the Bucs lose yesterday? I mean, I know we're talking about the Dolphins, but they just destroyed them 45-17, 5 touchdowns from Tom Brady. Like, yep. The Bills 400
are yards.
Absolutely be number 2 here, but like Tampa Bay has to be the favorite until they show us otherwise, and they certainly did not do that yesterday. They are still rolling and still should be the favorite here.
Yeah, the Bills continue to capture national attention. They have been doing so for weeks. I mean, the Chiefs here as well, guys, are catching national attention, but really for the wrong reasons. Like, are they broken? Something wrong with them. They're sitting at 2-3. Everyone's freaking out. They're chilling at the bottom of the barrel in a beefy division. They still have 5 more AFC West games to play too this season. I mean, how much of an overreaction is it here, Pierce, to say that they could end up missing the playoffs after being in the Super Bowl last season?
They're not going to miss the playoffs. Let's be serious. And the matchups against the AFC West, that's a good thing for them. All they've got to do is improve their defense, and they've got an entire season to do that. And the defense doesn't have to be great. It just has to keep them in ball games and allow the offense to do their magic. There's nothing to worry about here. The AFC South is garbage. The AFC North is going to beat up on itself. The AFC East is pretty weak in the bottom end. So all they've got to do is win games within their division. And really, do we think that the Raiders are the greatest? Do we think that the Chargers are the greatest? Or the Broncos? They're going to be fine. It's not going to look as nice as last season, but they're going to score points. They're going to win games. They'll make the playoffs.
I mean, it definitely feels like the Raiders and the Broncos are coming back down to earth a little bit, but the Chargers look legit right now. The only problem, and I guess the problem that is compounded like with the defense, AJ, is that they have a big turnover problem on offense. They gave the ball away 4 times against the Bills.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't read too much into that. Pearson, Jeff highlighted the Bills defense here, and I do think that's a legit D. So I'm not as worried there. But look, to say it's like not possible, I think, again, Pearson and I just aren't on the same page today. Like, they probably can't afford to lose any more divisional games. They've got 2 against the Raiders. They're on the road to the Chargers and the Broncos still. They've got out of division games against the Packers and the Cowboys. Now, fortunately, both of those are home for them. But I don't think it's outrageous to suggest that the Chiefs might might miss the playoffs. Would I bet that? Probably not. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but it's certainly something worth talking about. And if I were a Chiefs fan, I might be a little worried.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, how worried should Chiefs fans be? Mahomes has thrown 6 picks already this season. That's the same number as last year and 1 more than his Super Bowl championship winning year in 2019.
I'll play the tiebreaker here, but let's just be clear off the start. This isn't a Patrick Mahomes problem. Pierce alluded to it. This defense, as good as the Bills defense is, the Chiefs defense is like the polar opposite. 5.2 yards per carry against. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. 8.9 yards pass per attempt against. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. You can't get any worse than this defense. And I am going to side with Pierce here again. I'm going to play the tiebreaker. As long as Patrick Mahomes has blood flowing through his veins and can get out on that field, this defense can't get any worse. So we're going to see at least a little bit of positive regression here. Patrick Mahomes will take this team to the playoffs. We know the Raiders have already shown who they are. They lost to the Bears yesterday. The Chiefs are a better team than the Raiders. And the Broncos starting to show a few cracks as well. I think that defense will hold up better. But I am in agreement here. I think there's some very winnable games on the schedule. Mahomes is probably going to turn Byron Pringle into the next Jerry Rice here in the next couple weeks. So,
it's true.
I'll side with don't overreact. You'll be fine, Kansas City Chiefs. Might get a little tight at the end, but as long as Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, just chill out.
Yeah, there are always those weeks where like the wide receiver 3 in Kansas City all of a sudden is like Jerry Rice. It's like Sammy Watkins. You can always count on him being a fantastic week 1 wide receiver. By the way, those 4 turnovers yesterday, guys, dropping the Chiefs to -7 in turnover differential, better only than lowly Jacksonville in the entire NFL. And Jaguars owner Derrick Henry does it again. He carried the ball 29 times for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. He has 12 of them in his last 6 games against the Jaguars. He's now averaging 128 rushing yards per game, has gone over the century mark in 4 straight. Does he have a legit shot to win MVP this season, AJ?
Here's my concern about Henry here, and it has nothing to do with him. I think his numbers are going to be great. But is Tennessee going to be a good enough team to put him into the MVP conversation? They're going to need a winning record. They're going to have to make the playoffs. Like, he'll be in the mix because he's their best player, hands down. So as long as the rest of the team can help him, then, yeah, I think there's a chance. But I certainly think there's other players that are on better teams that are going to have, a better chance of taking home the MVP.
I mean, Jeff, is there value in his plus 6,500 odds on the DK Sportsbook right now to win MVP?
So, yeah, and AJ brings up a good point. I think the Titans, though, being in a weak division, I think that will put them in a good spot. And if they win that division, considering how banged up AJ Brown and Julio Jones is, I mean, people are going to look to him. I think here's my take on Derrick Henry MVP right now. Do I think he's going to win? Probably not, because this is such a quarterback-based award. But is there some value there at plus 6,500? There is, because we might just be one Kyler Murray bad game and one Josh Allen injury away from Derrick Henry all of a sudden being like, well, we can't give it to these other quarterbacks because they weren't good enough. Let's give it to Derrick Henry. And just for some sort of context here, you look back at some running backs who have won the award. I feel like the most comparable might be Terrell Davis in 2008, averaged 125 yards rushing per game. Henry's above that right now. If Tennessee wins this division and he averages right around that, I do think he's going to be in the mix. Now, it's going to take some regression from Murray and Allen, but at plus 6,500, yeah, there's some value there for me.
We are talking here, Pierce, about the guy who brought home Offensive Player of the Year honors last year. He became the 8th running back in league history to eclipse 2,000 rushing yards. I mean, this man's on a ridiculous pace again. Do you think, though, this pace could earn him and win him MVP?
I could be wrong, but I think that Terrell Davis year was 1998. That's how long ago it was. This is a quarterback league. It is very tough for a running back to get it done. He's done everything he needs to do, but it's going to be tough sledding moving ahead. Forget about 8-man boxes. He'll face 12-man boxes. They'll put illegal defenders on the field to stop this guy. He'll face better defenses as well. And if this offense can't get it going, they're just going to pretty much lock in on shutting down Henry every week. They've got to diversify the offense. The run blocking has been good, but the pass blocking has been terrible. The receivers are injured and not performing. If this is a one-dimensional team, it's going to be really hard for him to continue to churn out a 100-yard game after a 100-yard game. But I do like the value. I mean, it's just a couple fixes, and they can make this work. Fix the receivers a little bit. Get the line going a little bit better, which they have done in the past. And, you know, I would love to see someone other than a quarterback win this award.
So Terrell Davis had 2,008 rushing yards in 1998.
Yep.
So there you go. I was wrong.
Yeah, ridiculous. And let's remember too, 17 games this year. I mean, we're expecting a lot of records to fall here, at least this year and the coming seasons. But I mean, death, taxes, the Jaguars and the Lions being the last two completely defeated and winless teams in the NFL. And the Vikings took down Detroit at home in week 5, thanks in part to an impressive performance today from Alexander Mattison, who once again filled in admirably for the injured Dalvin Cook. He went for 113 yards on 25 carries. Oh, yeah. Then he added 7 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. How concerned should fantasy owners be about Mattison taking away snaps from Cook when he returns to action, Pierce?
Be very concerned. Mike Zimmer doesn't care about your fantasy team. He wants to win games. You're going to play both running backs. It helps with your depth and injuries. It keeps the legs fresh. Madison looks good. Use them both. Also, Cook's not 100%. The problem with Minnesota is there's just too many weapons on that team. You never know what's going to go. Thielen had 2 catches for 40 yards against Detroit. So they're in a position to let you down every week. Kirk Cousins is not dependable. He's just an absolute tease. 270 yards of touchdown every week. It's a good game, but it's never going to help you in fantasy.
It's a shame that the Kirk Cousins stan, the biggest one we know, Reed T. Fowler, is not here, but the complete opposite of that man is Jeff Ulrich, who does not believe so much in Kirk Cousins. What about Madison here, Jeff? I mean, concerned at all that he's going to be cutting into Cook's carriage? I think I just tried to make up a word.
I'll be honest. I'm not that concerned about it. Alexander Mattison and Dalvin Cook are pretty far apart in talent, in my opinion. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. It's against Detroit, man. He had 25 carries. You give any running back 25 carries against the Lions, they're probably putting up 100 yards. Dalvin Cook is kind of more of a special talent here. And the thing you need to be worried about with Cook is he's got to be healthy. Like, if he's not 100%, sure, you will see Madison mixed in. And I don't think they're just going to shove Madison to the side and not give him 5 or 8 touches. But like Dalvin Cook, when he gets going, he's going to get the ball. So yeah, I get it. Like, but I wouldn't, let's put it this way. If you're in season long, I wouldn't get too excited about Alex Madison. This is probably the spot where you get someone who is in love with Alex Madison, thinks he's the greatest thing, and then you trade him away. Because this story, as soon as Dalvin Cook gets healthy again, you'll forget he even exists.
And our apologies to Greg Joseph, whose 54-yard field goal as time expired was a big reason for this win. But AJ, 2 starts, 2 wins, 2 100-yard games now for Madison.
I think my concern, Jeff kind of hit on this a little bit, is Dalvin Cook actually going to be healthy? Like, there's playing in the game healthy, and then there's every down back Dalvin Cook we're used to healthy. And if he's not playing, at 100% here, I think a few extra carries go Madison's way. If the game gets out of hand one way or the other, you're not going to put a 75% Dalvin Cook out there. You're going to put Madison out there. So I do think there's some scenarios where he's going to chip away at it a little bit. But ultimately, I do agree with Jeff. If he can get to fully 100% the Dalvin Cook we're used to, Madison will barely touch the ball.
Dudes, that's how you do what you just did. Need all 3 of you actually for some Monday Night Football picks. We're going to look over to the Showdown contest. We're going to look over on the DK Sportsbook as well. But first, We got to talk about the divisional games around Major League Baseball because there are 4 of them today with a couple teams trying to punch their tickets to the AL and NLCS. That's coming up right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back live here on the Sweat and At Home edition. You could probably hear all the amazing helicopters and all sorts of first responders outside. It's a busy day here in Boston today. DraftKings contributors, Kenny Ducey, RotoWire's Paul Bruno. It's going to be a busy day in Boston for multiple reasons. Just one of the 4 divisional games going down as the Red Sox are going to try to punch their ticket to the ALCS on Marathon Monday. It's just the world we're living in now. Trying to knock off the Rays, but we're here to cover the bases. We got 4 division series matchups tonight. This 4-game classic slate, everybody, does start first pitch just after 1 o'clock. So 1:07 Eastern time on the dot with the White Sox and Astros. First base here, Kenny, give me your favorite DFS pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, this is a really interesting slate because I don't want to pay all the way up, I don't think, but I also want to spend a little bit of money. And that's where Freddie Peralta comes in. At $8,200. When you look at the way that this guy can strike hitters out, it's pretty phenomenal. I think that makes him a good DFS option in any sort of scenario. But this one specifically against a Braves team that's kind of struggled at the plate in this series. And when you look at the numbers that the Braves have against Freddie Peralta, this is really the biggest selling point for me. Jock Peterson, 1 for 6 in 10 plate appearances. Ozzie Albies 1 for 7. Adrianza 1 for 7. Dansby Swanson hitless in 5 at-bats. Freddie Freeman 2 for 9. Like, you look all up and down this order, they've seen Freddie Peralta and they have not had success against him. Now, he has regressed a little bit, Emerson, but still, this is a guy that can get you 6 or 7 plus strikeouts if he just goes 5 innings. And I think that is enough for me to roster him at $8,200. I think this is a pretty good price. I think he's a great guy to pair with another mid-tier pitcher.
Okay, Paul, how about you, dude? Give me your favorite DFS pitcher.
Emerson, I'm going to go to the top of the board here. I like players who bring a bulldog mentality to the table, and Dodgers Max Scherzer, priced at $9,600, fits the bill. He knows he was brought to LA for this moment. Sure, he's at the top of tonight's price list, but that'll make some DFS players shy away, I think, and I'll still take him because he enters the play on a roll, having allowed a minuscule .85 whip and a 185 opposing batting average over his last 10 starts. That includes only 43 hits and 62 innings pitched. What I'm saying is he'll be carrying a big chip on his shoulder after being pulled following a 4 1/3 innings pitched effort last time out. His mount opponent, by the way, is Alex Wood, and he hasn't beaten the Dodgers in 3 tries this season, being torched for 9 runs over 17 innings of work.
All right, let's hit up second base here, Paul. We're talking favorite DFS hitter. I see 5 guys that are going to cost you at least $5,000. You want to go with one of the high price tags?
Yeah, I've got a stack with the Dodgers here, and one of the guys that factors in is going to be over that threshold, Emerson. I've already referred to Alex Wood's struggles versus LA this season, and A.J. Pollock has been a big part of that ledger, going 10 for 25 with 2 homers in head-to-head matchups there. Pollock comes into tonight's play on an 8 for 29 stretch. That includes 4 long balls and 10 RBIs. He'll cost me and you $4,300. In fact, I said I like the Dodgers stack, and the guy that's over $5,000 is Mookie Betts, who gets the platoon edge today and will cost only $5,100. I was expecting that price tag to be higher. And I throw in Justin Turner, who is made for the playoffs apparently, $4,800 his price tag to complete that stack, as he too has enjoyed success against Wood. That's some low prices for the Dodgers big boppers tonight.
Okay, Kenny, talk to me, dude.
Yeah, there's a guy out there on the Boston Red Sox, and he's been a fantastic player in the postseason for them. And he's just been a fantastic player in big games, a great hitter. He's hitting 5 for them. His name is Alex Verdugo, and he's costing you $3,600 tonight. I really like him along with a lot of the Red Sox bats. When you look at the way that the Tampa Bay Rays set up in this game, their pitching is going to be kind of disastrous. I think the bullpen was a big strength for them coming into the postseason, but we've seen them tax their relievers, especially after that long game 3 last night. They're going to be setting up with Colin McHugh and Michael Wacha, the two guys that ignited the Red Sox in game 2 in that big 14-6 win. A guy that homered off of Colin McHugh is Alex Verdugo. McHugh should see probably 2 or 3 innings in this game, and then we see 3 innings of Michael Wacha, perhaps, and that is just music to my ears. If I'm looking at this slate, I think I'm going to load up on the Red Sox because those two guys have been definitely 2 of the worst pitchers in the Tampa Bay bullpen. They give them length, so they're probably going to pitch in this one a significant amount. And I think that the Red Sox here are in a pretty good spot. Neither that or they get a tired Pete Fairbanks to tee off on. Also, Alex Verdugo, great cutter hitter. And, of course, Colin McHugh loves to the cutter.
Yeah, he's had a hell of a postseason for Boston, that's for sure. Third base here, dudes. So let's go to the hot corner. Let's go over to the DK Sportsbook. Paul, give me your favorite run line or money line bet.
I'm sticking with that Dodgers game. As you know by now, I'm on them in a big way tonight, so I will not swerve from them on the run line, minus 1.5 for a 105 payoff. Simply stated, the Giants will face elimination in game 4.
All right, Kenny.
Yeah, I'm on the other side here. I think the Giants at plus 175 are a tremendous value. We know where the Dodgers struggle. It's against left-handed pitching. Alex Wood is a former Dodger. There's the narrative there. Of course, Paul mentioned that his numbers aren't the best against the Dodgers, but you want to talk about numbers that aren't the best. What did Max Scherzer do in the wild card game? I feel like we've all forgotten that he had walked 3 hitters, allowed 3 hits in 4 1/3 innings. It was very uncharacteristic. He completely just didn't have his stuff. And if you're going to bet on the Dodgers here, you're just going to bet on Max Scherzer. I mean, he is one of the best pitchers we've ever seen, us, being alive. But of course he could rediscover his form. But based on what we saw in the wild card game, this guy's a little off. And we saw, we've seen him be off in the postseason before. We've seen him struggle down the stretch. He had 2 bad games down the stretch. So I think that there's reason to believe here that the Giants, one of the best offenses in baseball, could certainly get some runs on the board against Max Scherzer. And then based on the Dodgers' struggles against lefties, they could struggle to score against Alex Wood. Not to mention they don't have Max Muncy anymore. And I still don't think that this Dodgers offense is quite into full gear without him. So I think that this is a very good value play. I'd also take a look at the run line, plus 1.5 runs at minus 120. If this is going to be a very close game, one the Giants can definitely win.
Take us home here, young Kenneth. Your favorite game total. You got 4 games to choose from on this Monday slate.
None of these are my favorite. I hate them all. But if I look, I just don't. You got 2 high game totals, and then we've got a low game total in San Francisco and LA. I took the under in game 2, and it did not work out for me. I'm going to take the under in the Brewers-Braves game, though, if I have to pick a total, because I mentioned Freddie Peralta has great numbers against the Braves. The Braves have also just sleepwalked through this series so far at the plate. And Milwaukee, on the other hand, has been one of the worst offenses in baseball in the second half and has carried that over to the postseason just a little bit. When you look at Ian Anderson, he's improved. He's coming into his form. We saw last postseason he was fantastic for the Braves. I expect him to be good in this game, so I think that this could definitely cash the under, especially when you consider how good the Braves bullpen has been.
Paul, which game total on the DK Sportsbook catches your eye?
Look, I see the White Sox, Carlos Rodon versus the Astros today. He has silenced that tough lineup twice this season. Look at these numbers, allowing only 4 hits and 1 run while striking out 18 and walking 3 over 14 innings pitched. In fact, over his last 10 starts, he's been almost that good with a whip of .98 and a .209 opposing batting average. In allowing only 38 hits over his last 49 innings pitched. But his mound opponent, Jose Urquidy, comes in at even hotter than that over his last 10 starts, boasting a .9 whip and a 199 opposing batting average. That's my case for going under the 8.5 game total. I'm even going to go a length further, saying I take the under at 7.5 for a bigger payoff on the alternate run line for a 135 payday.
How about some extra bases, boys? Give me your favorite player prop. Again, on this 4-game divisional slate, Paul.
I'm doubling down on a couple of things that I've already said. I touched on Carlos Rodon's recent dominant run and love the strikeout prop of 4.5 at minus 115. That's going to drop early and an easy win there. And even though I like Scherzer tonight, that strikeout prop of 7.5 is higher than he's achieved in each of his last 4 starts. I expect him to go deeper than 5 innings tonight, but I still think he stays under that line for a minus 105 payday.
Kenny, how about you, dude?
I like both props on the pitchers in the Dodgers-Giants game. Over 12.5 total outs for Alex Wood at plus 150. I think that's a really good deal. I think that he goes 5 innings. I think he has the potential here to give the Giants some length with the good matchup he has against the Dodgers, who struggle against lefties. And Max Scherzer's total outs is sitting at 16.5. Now that means that he would have to go 5 2/3 innings. And again, as Paul mentioned, I mean, this is Max Scherzer. He did get pulled early in the wild card game, but he had thrown like 90 pitches and he was looking terrible. So if you're like Paul and you think that Max Scherzer is going to rebound tonight and look like Max Scherzer, then over 16.5 outs would be pretty easy to cash. I mean, if Max Scherzer's pitching well and efficiently, he's going to go 7 innings. So, I mean, you'd hit this by a long margin. So I think both of these overs are pretty good.
Both of you were pretty good in that segment. Thanks for the help, everybody. Coming up after this next break, we still have some golf odds to talk about with Jeff Ulrich. But first, we got some Monday Night Football to gossip about. It's the Colts. It's the Ravens. We got a DK Sportsbook look at it. Also, little DFS showdown pick. Some advice coming your way right after this. Hey, everybody. Welcome back here to the Sweat. We're going to turn our attention now to Monday Night Football. We got the Colts battling the Ravens. And a friendly reminder, if you head to the DraftKings NFL lobby right now for $15, you could get yourself inside another Millie Maker. So a chance to win $1 million tonight. Feels like every Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday, there's an opportunity there for you to become the next millionaire on this planet. Also, if you win, you get a ticket to the Tournament of Champions in January, where you have another shot at $1 million. So you could easily win $2 million here in like a 3-month span, which is pretty cool. What's also pretty cool, we got our NFL panel back on the horn with us. We have DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich. We got Pierce Dietrich here. We got RotoWire's AJ Scholes. We did some NFL hangover. We looked back on Sunday earlier in this show. Now we're going to look ahead to tonight, guys. So favorite DFS plays and best bets for tonight's matchup between the Colts and the Ravens. Jeff Ulrich, start me with your captain pick. So this is 1.5 times the salary, but you do get 1.5 times the points.
Don't overthink it. Just put Lamar Jackson in your captain spot. I mean, give Lamar Jackson some credit. You know, over 230 passing yards in every single game so far this season. The passing yards are there. He's been over 20 DK fantasy points now in the last 2 games, and he's only taken 7 carries in this game. So the biggest thing about the showdown slate, there's value in other positions. And Pierce and I are on the show, so we got some doozies lined up, and I'm sure AJ's got some value lined up to help you too. But there are some legitimate value plays you can play. Make the people who don't captain Lamar here pay. Put him in the captain spot. It's a pretty good spot against a bad Colts secondary as well.
Okay, Pierce, do you have anybody else besides Lamar in your captain spot, which according to Jeff would be overthinking it?
Jeff's exactly right. It is overthink. I mean, I did overthink it. I tried to find an alternative, but there really isn't anybody out there. I'm not crazy about the Colts secondary, but I'm also not crazy about Hollywood Brown either. There's plenty of good players that can have good games, but there's not a lot of guys that can have explosive games and really score a bunch of points in that captain spot. So ultimately, Jeff's right. Don't overthink it. Take the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands the entire game and pretty much, controls this offense. Just play Lamar Jackson and move on.
Yeah, AJ Jackson, he does take a massive chunk out of the salary, but his ceiling makes the investment worth it, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with these guys, but I will give you one other option if you want it. I'm not saying you should. I think they're right. Don't overthink this, but if you want it, maybe look at Latavius Murray at 11-1 here. He leads the team in overall touches, including 18 last week. He's also first on the Ravens in red zone opportunities as well. So, the Colts, they have only given up 18.7 fantasy points per game to running backs. That's pretty limited there. So again, I go with these guys. Lamar Jackson's the way to go. But if you are trying to separate yourself and get fancy with it, Latavius Murray might be an option for you.
Yeah, especially if they get up big two in this game, AJ, they could hop on Murray's back and close this thing out on the ground for sure. Pierce, were you looking for value in this showdown?
Well, the trick with the showdown value is you either need a big play or you need a touchdown. That's all you need to do. So I'll go with Mo Alley Cox, who did it in his last game, 74% of the snaps, 5 targets in his last game, 3 in the red zone. That translated into 2 touchdowns. Probably won't get 2 touchdowns again, but I'll take 1 touchdown. It doesn't matter. You need a big play guy or you just need a touchdown. And Baltimore has struggled against tight ends, 30 receptions to tight ends, 347 yards. 3 touchdowns. If you want to go Jack Doyle, go even cheaper, that's fine. But I think one of these Indianapolis tight ends are going to get you a touchdown and save you a bunch of money.
All right. How about you, Jeff?
Well, I know you're a Lambo guy, Emerson, but could I interest you in a Proche 911 today with James Proche at $1,000? 6th-round draft pick, 6 targets last week, led the Ravens in catches. Look, he's $1,000. The Colts have one of the worst secondaries in the league. I mentioned yards per attempt. They're 6th worst there. You don't need much here. You don't need much. And if you're captaining Lamar Jackson and you actually get that special event, a touchdown to James Proche, you're going to be so far ahead of the field here. But realistically, 2 catches, 3 targets, 4 targets, it's doable. Devin Duvernay and him are battling for wide receiver 3 spot. Duvernay's more of just that bomb guy, a special teamer. I think Proche has maybe made a bit of a case for himself here as the 2nd best receiver on this team, wide receiver anyways. I really like him at $1,000 in the spot.
AJ, hook me up with some value, dude.
Well, Jeff took it. I'm on the Proche train as well here. The 5 targets or 5 receptions last week. You can maybe point to it being an anomaly. He only had 1 catch in the previous 3 weeks. But again, as Jeff said, at $1,000, how do you not? If he gets a couple catches, you're sold. And that touchdown would just put you ahead of the game. So I think he's a almost must roster here.
Okay, well, let's talk about the spread. Let's go over to the DK Sportsbook. AJ, who covers tonight?
I think it's the Ravens. I think, -7's a big number here to get to, but I think they can. They've got the offensive tools. Pierce and Jeff talked about the secondary problems, and I think they can just take it to them early and then pound the ball the rest of the game, get ahead and just grind it out. So I do like them to cover even at -7.
Okay, Pierce, how about you, dude?
I like the Colts. Let me come to the defense here of the Colts secondary. Xavier Rhodes can turn around anytime. Rock Yassin has a solid PFF grade. And a lot of those stats that Jeff mentioned are inflated because they gave up a bunch of big plays in the first week to Seattle. They also had to face the LA Rams. The last 2 weeks they played easier competition than they're going to face tonight, and they performed pretty well. I mean, Derrick Henry only had 113 yards on him. So, I mean, that's pretty good when you hold him down to just close to 100. The defense in Indianapolis, I think, is pretty good. They deserve some credit here. And obviously Baltimore has a pretty good defense. I don't see a lot of points happening. I think Indianapolis will keep this close.
Spread did get up here to 8 points at one point, Jeff, and the Colts have played well on the road. We're looking at 6-2 ATS.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and I am going to side with the Carson Wentz-led team here. I think at +7 or above, I would take the Colts as well. Pierce made some good points about the defense. Maybe they're not quite as bad. They're getting healthier back there too. They've had some injury issues early in the year, but I'll give Frank Reich some respect. I mean, Frank Reich is a pretty solid head coach. They've got a solid D-line. You've got some injuries on the Ravens O-line too that we haven't talked about. Could be an issue here. I think all things considered, the Colts could come out with Jonathan Taylor and dominate this game. We didn't talk about Jonathan Taylor much from a DFS perspective, but that is one path to victory. Another path to covering the spread is just the Ravens defense hasn't really been that good. I mean, they lost to the Raiders. They let Derek Carr and Darren Waller go crazy. So there's lots of backdoor ways that Carson Wentz could cover this for us too. +7, I think it's just way too much respect given to the Ravens here. So I'll take the Colts.
All right. What do you guys want to do here with the total? You want to go over or under the current total, Jeff?
Well, I'm going to do something I don't normally do again. I'm going to take the under here. I mean,
what? No,
yeah, I
this
know.
is history.
Well, look, it's Canadian Thanksgiving, so maybe I just got like too much turkey in me today or something. I'm just a little tired, but the Ravens are 17-19 over the last 2 years, going back to 2019 with Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. Both of these teams are well in the bottom half of the league in terms of pace of play right now. And again, there's multiple scenarios here. Maybe the Ravens come out and dominate with their rush game and make this slow, but Jonathan Taylor could do the same thing. I just think 46, it's a little bit inflated for these two teams. I mentioned all those stats. I'm going to take the under here. I actually like that play quite a bit.
Pierce, total has gone over in 2 of the first 4 against the Ravens and Colts. However, in their last 3 meetings, the over is 0-3.
Yeah, and the Ravens have gone under their last 2 games when playing some pretty weak opponents. And this is not another strong offense. It's going to be slow on the other side, and I could see Baltimore not really forcing the issue. Baltimore can score a bunch of points, but it requires really Lamar Jackson to go crazy. And is this really a game where you want Lamar Jackson doing backflips over people and trying to score a bunch of points? I don't think it is. I think you go in, you play pretty conservative in the first half, see how things shake out. I don't see a lot of points from the Baltimore side. Again, I think these defenses are a lot better than we're giving them credit for. I like the under a lot here.
I mean, AJ, how about that over, though? I mean, Wentz continues to gain more comfort. He's a little more comfortable in this Colts offense. Ravens should be able to run the ball fairly consistently against, what is this, the 17th ranked run defense?
I mean, you're giving me all the reasons to do it, but I just can't. I'm with these guys on the under here. You know, the Colts have just 8 touchdowns on the year, and I don't expect a whole lot out of this one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. And it'll be 0-4 for the under on this one.
All right, guys, we'll bring it home with this. Jeff, slate approved pick. Give me your favorite bet tonight, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go Carson Wentz over 227.5 passing yards. Teams pass over 38 times per game against the Baltimore Ravens. And this is just an insanely low total for a guy who's essentially a pocket passer.
All right, Pierce.
Well, let's just take the last segment and roll it in here. I'm going to go under 23 in the first half. We all agree that we're not expecting a lot of points. Both of these teams are in the bottom third in pace. Both of these teams are near the bottom when it comes to first quarter productivity. I like the defenses. It really just comes down to Lamar Jackson. Maybe he turns it on in the fourth quarter, but I don't see him pushing it in the first. And if he plays it safe, there's just not going to be points. Baltimore averages 14 points in the first half. Colts average 7 points in the first half of the season. These are not productive offenses. Give me the under in the first half.
All right, AJ, I need your slate approved pick. So your favorite bet tonight on DK Sportsbook.
Yeah, I like Sammy Watkins to go over 3.5 receptions here at -110. He's got 4 in every single game, been really consistent there throughout the start of the season. So I would expect him to get 4 more tonight and just keep riding that train.
AJ, Pierce, good stuff, guys. Appreciate the help. Jeff, we appreciate you as well joining us on Canadian Thanksgiving. But I need you for one more segment, okay? Let's talk some of the look ahead to some of this week's odds for some of the guys on the PGA Tour as the tour has decided to stay in Vegas for a second straight week. We're back in just a minute, folks. All right, everyone, back here on the Sweat, last block of the show. And for only the third time since 1976, the PGA Tour is hosting tournaments in the same city for 2 straight weeks. It started last week with the Shriners Children's Open at TPC Summerlin there in Vegas. And then now Jeff Orwick, DraftKings contributor, tournament's going to go ahead and stick around for the CJ Cup at the Summit Club in the Sin City. So this is a PGA Tour pin placement here. I need you to tell me where following guys are going to finish, all right? Jason Kokrak, defending champion, odds on the DK Sportsbook, plus 5,000. Hook me up with it, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Kokrak obviously had just a monster week here last year. I mean, breaking through for his first win, it's big. Coming in this year, he made the Tour Championship again. He was 11th there, 15th at the BMW Championship, but missed the cut last week. If you look what Kokrak's been doing, he's actually been really inconsistent with his best club, which is the driver, which scares me a little bit. He was putting the lights out at this time last year when he won, and his putter's cooled off a little bit too. So honestly, it's a defending champ. The course sets up well for him. It's big, expansive. He's probably going to be able to pound driver, but he's really not playing that well. So I think all things considered here, I'm just going to peg him for like a middle of the field finish, which is about a T35. Really not expecting too much from Jason Kokrak right now. It looks like his short and medium term form has kind of cooled off a bit.
All right. Speaking of just being able to mash a little bit too, we have Justin Thomas, who's a 2-time winner. He's got his odds are much shorter at plus 1,200. How do you think he does this week?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is this one is definitely we're going a little bit higher here. I think this actually sets up as like a classic. Justin Thomas just comes in here and maybe dusts this field for a win. I mean, you look at what Justin Thomas was doing just before the Ryder Cup in the playoffs, a T4 at the Northern Trust, got himself kind of in contention at the Tour Championship, and his approach game is back on track. He went through a bit of a cold stretch there right before the FedEx Cup playoffs, but now he's gained over 2 strokes on approach in 4 straight events. The putter is actually heated up for him too, which is just a club that can give him real headaches. But this guy has now started to look like he's put some stuff together. He had a nice Ryder Cup. He's won a lot of limited field events in the past, and the scoring's probably going to go pretty low here. I'm going to peg Justin Thomas for a win here. That's how kind of excited I am. He hasn't won for a while here. Justin Thomas is the guy who usually wins a couple times a year, so I'm expecting a big week from him.
Yeah, he just got a new caddy too, I believe.
He does. That's true. Yeah,
new guy in the bag.
It could be negative, but could be. These guys. I assume he vetted
Bones.
his caddy, so he's probably
never. Yeah. So former caddy Phil Mickelson. A lot of people will see him.
That's right. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Sung JM, was he a guy you were backing last week? He won the Shriner. It was either you or Reed, one of you two, and he has plus 3,000 odds to win it this week.
Yeah, it was Reed. Thanks for bringing it up, though, Emerson. Really feel great about that. I had Matthew Wolff finish second. That was another awesome.
Okay, that's not bad.
It's okay. It got me $0, but yeah, Sung JM has been playing really solid for a while now. I mean, we look back at Sung JM's metrics here, like from an approach category. And this dude is just all in the green. He was gaining approach on approach through 12 events here. So to see him finally pop for a win, it honestly wasn't that shocking. Now look, I mean, we saw Sam Burns come in through the fall, almost win again last week after his win at the Sanderson Farm. I don't really see why Sung JM, a guy who is so used to playing every single week on the PGA Tour, can't come in here and have another solid week. He had a solid week at this event last year. The same climate, the same kind of grass going to be used. I'm going to peg Sanjay for like a T5 here. I think he gets himself right back in contention. Very, very talented all-around player. Can certainly hang with the best. I think we have some more elite players, and I think a guy like Justin Thomas is probably going to end up, blowing the doors off. But I think Sanjay will be around. I'm going to peg him for a top 5.
Okay, where are you going to peg Colin Morikawa here? Because he's a member. He's a member here, right? At Summit, one shot of 62, and he's got plus 2,000 odds. He's a guy who knows his way around this track.
When you've been around the PGA streets as long as I have, Emerson, when you hear a guy is a member at the club and people start getting excited about, oh, this guy's shot like 61 here, he's got the record, you usually you go the other way. This never works out. The membership thing, I don't know why it is, but it just never works out on the PGA Tour. Now, there's other reasons not to like Colin Morikawa this week. He looked a lot better at the Ryder Cup, but let's go back to his stroke play form. for a guy who's so good on his approaches, he lost approaches in 3 of his last 4 events. This is not the player we saw earlier in the year where he was winning, competing at the US Open, winning the Open Championship, and just being crazy good ball striking every week. I mean, can he get it together this week? Absolutely. I don't think we're going to see a long dip from Colin Morikawa, but I want players who are coming in with the form from the FedEx Cup playoffs. Colin Morikawa isn't coming in with that form. I'm going to peg him for a T20. And again, this membership thing, I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
It does not work out on the PGA ever.
Well, hasn't it? It's worked out in the past for like Webb Simpson because we bring that up every year with Webb Simpson. At Quail Hollow. I'm talking, we do it every year at the tournament at Quail Hollow with Webb Simpson.
Literally never won at Quail Hollow though. So I don't know. I mean, I don't.
Well, no, I'm backing up what you're saying. I'm saying we always bring up the membership thing and we're like,
I gotcha. Ryan Palmer at Colonial.
Yeah.
It's another one. I just.
Half the tour there, Arnie's place in Orlando. I feel like they're all members there.
I'll take your word.
All right, Maverick McNealy. He lives in Vegas, so this guy knows how to tackle the strip. That's for sure. Plus 8,000 though. With those odds, where do you think he finishes?
Oh man, yeah, Maverick McNealy broke my heart at the Fortin Net Championships a few weeks back. Had a really good event there. He's a talented young player. You know, he can get really hot with the putter. He's very up and down. He's been playing better in this elite field. I mean, I'm not expecting a whole lot, but we do have to look back at his big body of work. I mean, before last week at the Shriners when he missed the cut, he had made 10 cuts in a row. The ball striking was a bit better. And realistically, he lost 2.3 strokes putting last week. Like, he just rarely loses strokes putting. So I'm expecting a bounce back for him here. And again, I mean, I think that this is a solid young player who's playing a bit better. I'm going to peg him for, let's say, around a T20, T25. Again, it's a more an elite field. I'm not expecting McNealy to come in there and challenge necessarily, but I do think it's going to be a solid bounce back week for him because let's look at the medium-term form. It's pretty good. I think this course is going to set up nicely. He's not like super accurate off the tee, but big fairways in play this week. And if the putter gets hot, he can hang out for a bit. So we'll peg him for a top 25.
All right. How about TYRELL Hatton here? He finished T3 in last year's event. His odds are plus 5,000. Another fantastic golfer in this field that is loaded with him.
He is a fantastic golfer. TYRELL Hatton really just hasn't kind of, I mean, I'm very conflicted on this one. I wanted to go a couple different ways, maybe make him a bit of a shock pick. He was second at the Palmetto Championships, which is another Tom Fazio design. Tom Fazio designed the course in play this week at the Summit Club. So that's something in his favor. But realistically, I'm just going to peg him for kind of an off week. This is a player who missed the cut at the Open, missed the cut at the US Open, missed the cut at the only playoff event at the Northern Trust he played. He hasn't really done anything on the PGA Tour in like 2.5, 3 months. He played a little bit over in Europe, but again, we really haven't seen too much from him recently. So, Hatton's a player who he really needs his approach game and his putter to get hot because he's not strong off the tee. Neither of those have been clicking for him here. And I don't know if he just comes into Vegas against a good field and all of a sudden picks it up. I'm going to peg him for like a T35, T40. Not really a player I'm that interested in this week.
All right. Well, Sam Burns, how interested in him are you? We got a win. You got a T14 this season. His odds are shorter than 5,000. They're plus 2,200.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned Sam Burns already in the segment. I mean, you want to talk about a young player who's just like found his groove here. I mean, it looked like he might go back to back last week. Now, you kind of got to give him a little bit of a pass for cooling off on the weekend. I mean, he obviously coming off a huge win. Probably just ran out of gas, but still gained over 5.5 strokes, just ball striking alone last week. That's after gaining 14 strokes at the Sanderson Farms 2 weeks ago. And realistically, Emerson, this guy is a really good putter. He's lost strokes putting in his last 2 events, and that includes his win. I think Sam Burns does do fine this week. I mean, there's so many ways that Sam Burns can make birdies, and he hasn't even heated up with his best club yet, which is the putter. So realistically, I think just being out of contention for a week, probably give him a good break. I'm going to peg him for a top 10 here, or like let's say T10. I think Sam Burns is striking it too well right now that you just want to start fading him.
Yeah, he was one of the first guys. There's a lot of Ryder Cup dudes like in this field. We've talked about some of them already. He was one of the first guys left off of the U.S. team and is certainly playing right now like he wants to be a lock for 2023.
He's a name not to forget. I mean, he doesn't have like the big wins like a Morikawa or anything like that yet, but this guy can absolutely do it all. Long off the tee, great putter, like I said.
Also, speaking of great, your performance today, go enjoy whatever it is you do on your wonderful holiday of Canadian Thanksgiving. I also have wonderful news. We're now have Madden 2022 on the stream. So that's gonna start. Yep. That's going to start at high noon coming up on YouTube and Twitch. You guys check it out. We also have a Monday edition of the slate coming your way at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on Wednesday. You, me, and Sweet T Fowler. I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about Tony Finau being in the field this week. We'll do that on Wednesday. Talk a lot of golf. So I'll see everyone tomorrow morning. Adios.